Alrighty, hello every folks, and good morning. Welcome to a brief little rundown here on Sword of Convallaria. It just released on phones and Steam Decks and PCs and probably other stuff because their little survey thing was asking about Switches and whatnot. I don't know what all it's released on at this point, but this is an interesting little thing, because it is on paper something that I've really wanted from the genre for a while. Namely, we're talking about a game that, in theory, has like a Radiant Historia-esque time reset mechanic, potentially a very kind of tactics advanced-esque battles and whatnot, and in general, hell, they even got the composer from Tactics Ogre and like Tactics A2 and FF12 and such. So there's a lot to like here as far as what this game is, especially considering that it's free. And really, any complaints about this game pretty much entirely start at the free part, oddly enough. So let's go ahead and just kind of show one of the fights here and just kind of discuss in the background. Also, I just noticed nope, we might as well just go backwards here and just leave this particular section because I just screwed it up because I forgot to actually deploy anybody. Alright, so, first thing to note here, there is a lot of attention to detail actually put into this thing. There's a lot of really solid design elements that I really appreciate, like hell, even just seeing shadows properly handled whenever somebody's behind a window or whatnot. Actually, another weird random shout out here, the fire effects. This kind of specific style tends to have issues with kind of overdoing it with bloom or just kind of overdoing it with particle effects and whatnot. As far as the design aspects of this part of it, absolutely spot on. I really like the way that they handle a lot of the details here. All the areas feel very kind of fantasy lived in. Like the overall vibes of, for example, this neutral limbo zone that you go into between different game modes reminds me of this one bookshop that my wife took me to once. There was this this place that just had like poetry books and was all modeled after birds and whatnot. And in general, it's really cool to see situations where, like, you can essentially just go outside and kind of meander around and go to these different zones rather than just teleporting to them. Now, this isn't consistently the same kind of quality everywhere, but still, you know, it's good to see these kinds of things handled like this. Again, you can probably see what I mean about these fire effects, that they didn't overdo it with a bloom. They did a very subdued effect on it, which tends to make it look a lot more genuine than a lot of other attempts at this style with any kind of fire effect on there. Again, oddly specific thing to linger on, but let's go ahead and continue on to the game itself. Is the gameplay good? Yeah, it's pretty good. There's bits and pieces I don't necessarily appreciate, but in general, it feels pretty legit. So you got 3 different modes that you're effectively playing in. You've got your challenge modes, which seems to be like your grind button. You've got your... Where did my controls go? Okay, apparently I have switched control modes. Let's just go back. So, you've got your 3 different modes. Spiral of Destinies here is basically the bread and butter thing that I am here for. It's essentially a time loop mechanic wherein every time you're playing through, you're potentially making different decisions and altering the storyline, and every time that you screw up the storyline and get to a dead end, you reset your timeline, and essentially every time you're going through, you're kind of going and playing through it again in a sort of roguelike fashion. Essentially a strategy RPG roguelike in many ways. So, let's say we go to this and we see, like, okay, on a further playthrough, now you get additional, like, slots on your units, or you get additional units at the very start, or stuff like that. So a very kind of roguelite-esque type of stuff there. Additionally, not necessarily the most important note by any means, but they give you a choice over your gender on your main character, and it's nice to not be the heroic dude for once. It's not really like it makes much of a difference, but hey, it's a visual difference at the very least. Now, this I've seen expanded out in a lot of different ways from previews and whatnot that were out there. So supposedly the different routes that this game can take can get pretty extensive. I don't know how extensive necessarily, and the writing is not the greatest, but it's good. It's good enough. It's better than most that you see out there so far-ish. Like, it's no Tactics Ogre, but, like, it's not exactly War of the Visions, you know? It sometimes leans in that direction, but it pulls it back. Like, honestly, there's a lot of moments, like, for example, this lady over here, at first I thought she was going to be the repeat of frickin' Ninja What's-Her-Face from War of the Visions there. Because people were telling me, like, no, you know, it's totally like Final Fantasy Tactics, so you gotta go try it out. And then that game just was absolute hot garbage. And in this case, it's like they got the giant sword lady. I was like, oh god, they're going to go down that route again. And then they immediately kill her off. And then they're like, hey, look, Second timeline, guess what? Changed some stuff. Didn't get killed off this time. That's what we're doing here. Good introduction to that. And then you think that she's going to be the protagonist person, and then you find out that she's a raging alcoholic, and, you know, then just stuff kind of goes from there. They always have that thing where it seems like they're starting to go towards tropes and then pull it back. I hope that continues, because I really hate tropey stuff. So, anyways, that being said, of these three, so this is your branching storyline thing, this is your weird, trippy mobile game adventure. This is supposed to be like the mobile game progression type of thing, I think, wherein you're basically going back through bits and pieces of the main story, and then just everything's just kind of a weird, distorted version where walls are missing, areas of the ground are missing, and you're just kind of more so fighting through the abstract ideas of stuff that you've been through. And then you got Crossing Worlds over here, which just seems to be grind mode for all intents and purposes, as far as I can tell. So, as far as the actual fights and things go, what is the deal here? Is it particularly difficult? Is it way too easy? So far, I mean, I'm only a little bit into this thing. I've been busy most of the day. I've had maybe like an hour between the last couple of days to actually look through this thing. And in general, I would say, while it is confusing to have two different parties that you're playing through, I will say that it has felt interesting at the very least. These particular fights have been pretty easy because obviously it's just grind mode, but you're operating two separate teams. You've got your kind of like otherworld team, I guess you could say here. So these are the guys that show up off of your random summons and things. Now, one more note that I should probably mention here. Supposedly you don't have to interact with any of those mechanics whatsoever. And the reason that that's important is because obviously that stuff gets really egregious. Again, see War of the Visions for that kind of nonsense. In this particular case, from what I've seen, if you choose not to interact with those mobile game mechanics, as far as I can tell, that seems about right, as far as not needing to interact with them whatsoever. Because as far as the characters go, your starting characters are the same. They're the same dudes, regardless of whether you did one playthrough or another, and all of the mobile game stuff is effectively just essentially adding advantages on top of it if you choose to interact with them. And this is only for this mode. As far as the story mode, it's more like a chilled-out version of the last spell, wherein your characters are basically going to be given to you throughout each playthrough. You've got a sort of training mode that they go into to learn different skills that feels very XCOM 2-esque. Here, we'll just kind of finish off this map, and I'll show you what I mean. But the actual gameplay for the main mode is it feels very cool. It feels like an actual proper like game, not a mobile game, you know. So you basically have this weekly mechanic that you're going through, wherein every time you start a week, you go and you handle a fight, whether it's some random battle or something, whether it's dealing with getting some new equipment made or setting somebody some new skills to be trained. And those units then train up, they then get tired during fights, and they need to be rotated out, so you have a rotating roster. You have units that are going to be unavailable. Some of them are sent on away missions. Some of them are going to be too tired. Some of them are going to be injured. Some of them are going to potentially just be just kind of unavailable for one reason or another. And so this leads to a cool thing where, again, you're building a rotating roster. There doesn't seem to be much grind necessarily outside of, again, just think stuff like Last Spell, where, yeah, characters get better as you use them, and you can send them into training to learn new spells or new abilities. But this doesn't mean that that's the only thing going on, you know? Also, out of curiosity, can I just kick my witch into this guy to do damage? No. Okay, well, it was worth a shot. It was worth a shot. Now, there's a lot of cool interactions with those skills, though. Actually, quite a few of them, even. So this guy's probably going to get attacked right now, but this will be a good example of the Overwatch kind of mechanic here, wherein your characters can have sort of an area of effect, again, Overwatch mechanics here, which is cool because it interacts with different passives and things as well. So, like, I have a guy in the story mode right now that is a spear guy that does a area sweep every time somebody gets into the cones in front of him, and does an attack debuff on anybody nearby. So essentially that guy's kiting, archers are behind him, just going for the old classic England strategy, you know? And so like this mobile game section of it is just kind of whatever, right? Don't really particularly care about this part, but the story bit is pretty legit. The writing is okay, but as far as the this particular mode, the sort of like roguelike mode, where you're going and getting different different functions added every time you're playing through. I guess it's more roguelite than roguelike, but still, whatever. It's cool that that you've got a different team every time you're playing through. I don't know if your old team is just added to your mobile team or just deleted or what. I think it's actually better to quit this particular fight, because this is just one of the story fights with one of the tropes that I really, really don't like. I'm going to pretend that that's not there for the time being, because I am trying to be positive and enjoy what I do like in this thing. Little anime witch lady trope I am thoroughly sick of any time I've ever seen it. It's done to death. It's annoying. I don't like it. Like I was saying, even during the demo, like if there's an option to turn her in to the church or something, because you immediately hire her despite being ordered to go turn her into the church, would totally do so at a moment's notice. Like, just no questions asked. Now, again, cool attention to detail in the story mode, though. It almost feels like this version of the game was built being hidden from the folks that actually funded the whole thing, because there's way more attention to detail put into the story mode bits than there is to the mobile game bits, where, like, for example, you put somebody into training, and they're going and they're doing their proper training thing. You see a lot more animals around, though I guess you see those everywhere, to be fair. You don't really talk to a lot of the NPCs, I suppose. But you do a decent bit of traveling around. As far as being able to go into your town, you just kind of travel around your town and kind of see what's up, as it were. I think there was some way to run, but I don't remember how to do it. But yeah, you're assigning people to different stuff. Like in here, I had some guy that was going and making some weapons or something. There are some funny placeholder issues, though. Like, for example, let's see. No, let's cancel that. Like, if we find our training spot where we were, you'll notice that there's still a few bugs in the game here. So, like, right now, if we go over to the training here, we're gonna confirm stopping training just because I want to show this. But like if we put her in here, there's actually still occasional issues with like missing assets and stuff. So like this is supposed to be Sprite 11 that's being used, and currently it is showing just Sprite equals 11 in brackets. So I'm not really sure what happened to that particular asset, but it is currently missing. Already submitted a bug report for that, but you do see the occasional thing that needs polish. I'm not entirely sure how something that obvious got missed with all of this polishing that has happened, but alright, whatever. As far as voice acting is concerned, I can't really speak to it. I don't speak Japanese, and the options were like Japanese, Korean, and Chinese. I was told there was English by now, but there is not. So that's just kind of whatever. Also, you may notice that this music is not the music from this game. Because going to the music in this one, or having the music turned on for this one, gets you a copyright strike. So that's, yeah, I would rather not receive angry emails from them. But anyways, as you're going around and doing all of these different things, your soldiers are, again, sometimes dispatched to different locations. If you, for example, really don't like somebody's dumb-looking haircut, you can just dispatch them forever. Or if, you have somebody that is particularly tired or something, you just throw them into here, and then somebody else has to rotate out for them. Your party is pretty limited in terms of how many you get, at least so far. That may change down the line. And yeah, that's kind of the long and short of it. Every week, you're essentially just given a list of tasks. You set some people to train, you set some people to rest, you set some people to do battles. Now, awkward thing about this, though, is that when it comes to doing these battles, for one thing, it's interesting that your leadership character actually does not participate in these. Your leader is kind of off on their own temporal adventure most of the time, and they actually are just serving as a leader, which you don't really see that often. I was expecting that to be a little bit different. But effectively what we're seeing is that, the leader guy is just, or, guy or girl or whatever else, they're just leading. Nothing too particularly crazy about it. They're literally just leading. Also, this lady, I'm pretty sure is a spy, but we're going to go ahead and send them out to assist this team anyway, because these guys, they need them some healing, so... Let's go ahead and confirm skipping this. Anyway, so yeah, there's definitely stuff to appreciate here. Is it perfect by any means? No. Like I said, I really dislike this lady in just like everything about them. It's like absolutely 100% of everything about this character I hate. But apparently they're going to be a mandatory part of the story, so just kind of whatever there. But again, there will be stuff like that. There will be tropes. I don't like when there's super tropey stuff like that, but it's there. But the skill interactions are pretty cool. He's not in this particular fight, but I mentioned earlier, the spear sweeping debuff guy is pretty cool. The AI does do a pretty good job of taking advantage of stuff like we're seeing right there, where they're going and trapping units in fire, more or less, by going and overwatching them. You'll generally see them teaming up pretty well, and the weakness mechanics are pretty solid. You can usually just follow Pokemon rules on this, so for example right here, grass beats water, so she's going to do pretty well against this guy. It's effectively a more dramatic version of the Tor system in many ways. So, again, it feels good. It feels like the way that the knockbacks and kind of follow-up attacks and things like that are used, to me feels very triangle strategy-esque, if that was your thing, so there's a good bit of that as well. So yeah, I mean, it feels fun to play. I will say that. It feels fun to play. It's free to play. You can just try it out for yourself. Honestly, I don't know why you're looking for an opinion on it. It's it's something that you can just go try for yourself. But I'd say overall, it seems like there was effort put in to make the actual single-player experience, good. I don't know how much that succeeded so far, but I will say it's a good sign that there's so many field interactions, and so far they seemingly all scale, which seems like a minor detail to get on, but that was Triangle's issue, that it had a ton of field effects and then it just didn't scale any of them. So in this case, yeah, they do seem to scale. They do seem to do a pretty good job of that. It has been interesting that there don't seem to be items, so there doesn't seem to be an item economy or anything. So it seems like skills are mostly balanced around that, which is good. Fights in general have felt, I'd say, pretty solid. Like, as far as difficulty goes, for this early in the game, I would say it's feeling like an FFTA or an A2 or something like that. That it feels like there's enough challenge, but it's nothing too nuts. While there are obviously going to be super easy things going on in the tutorial, it pretty quickly stops holding your hand after that, so that's nice. You can very easily, for example, start losing fights about an hour in, so it's not like difficult by any means, but it's better than I would expect from a mobile game. My standards for this one are not exactly astronomical, I see it coming out on a phone, my expectations drop like tenfold, but so far it's been more impressive than I was expecting it to be. And this is even comparing with the demo. It has been polished up since the demo, which again is why it feels a little bit weird that there's certain assets and things just kind of still missing. So yeah, overall I'd say the music, while you're not hearing it right now, is pretty solid, because obviously, the composer. And yeah, the gameplay is alright. I would say it strangely feels more comfortable to play on a Steam Deck than it does on actual mobile devices, which is kind of unexpected, but that's just neither here nor there. That's just a personal opinion. But it's great to see that it works on both, and it's also really fun to see that explosions get used for stuff so often. So I'm going to willingly let this lady take a hit here. So actually, no, there's not even a point in doing that. We might as well just move her here, have her go, just stand by, I guess. It's good to have a dedicated standby button as well. It's probably worth noting. Alright, whatever, just go finish this guy off. I was going to blow him up, but whatever, that'll be fine. We'll just kind of leave that there. Skip through the rest of this stuff and such. Already know all of this from the demo a few months back. But yeah, definitely had a lot more legit SRPG type stuff than you usually see from this kind of subgenre of things. I don't like some of the tropes that are happening here. Again, like the usual, exactly what you're seeing right now. But for the most part, it's got stuff. Stuff's happening, it feels interesting, I want to keep playing it, and that's a decent first impression. Again, just ignore everything that's outside of the story mode, because the other stuff is, we don't talk about that. As soon as the custom or the arbitrary random like shiny rocks come out, that's when all interest goes out the window. Anyway, so that's about that. I gotta get going. Go ahead and give this a bit of a shot. See what you think. All right, take care.